Hello, everybody! If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, my co-host Tom. We're a little late tonight. I would tell you that it was Tom's fault, and that's sort of true, because Tom got me talking about magic. But that's really the only reason.
Sorry,
we were
friends.
just talking about magic cards. I'm sorry. A new set came out, and we're talking about that new set, because Tom and I didn't get a chance to catch up
We have
on it yet.
opened many boxes. And
yeah,
so,
we don't have any outlet for this. We need clearly I need to start a Magic podcast and a D&D podcast. So
right.
there you go.
Hey, I'm in. Let's do it.
I'll talk to your wife. I'm sure she's stoked about that idea.
I'm sure she is too.
Yeah, absolutely. Tonight we're going to talk about list building in AoS 4. This has been something on my mind for quite a while because it is a real tale of two cities. Not that I want to spoil the later part of the episode, but there are some armies I really enjoy list building with in 4.0, and some armies I really don't. There are a lot of good things about the current list building methodology that I think are very positive, and there are a lot of things that I don't like about the current list building. And so we're just going to talk it through. Tom and I made a bunch of lists, and we're going to kind of talk through them, talk about like the experience with it, where we feel they align with the army, you know, strengths, weaknesses, like where the challenges lie.
I did some zany stuff.
Yeah, and that's just it. I really want to sort of dive into it. That's why I wanted to make it real. So we prepped a bunch of lists so we can actually make it real. Not just talk about the ephemeral, but like let's actually get together. We got together. We built lists for our armies that we like to play so we can talk through like the challenges we had while we were making those lists, right? And where the friction points are. But anyways, first off, we're going to talk about the news. So
Rumor Engine.
That's right. There you go, baby. It's back. There it is. It's a horse or a cow or something.
It's something.
Yeah, it's some kind of animal. Aminal.
I mean, could it be the long lost Hashut?
Could it be a Chaos Dwarf bull thing? Could it be their little bull rider people? Yes, it could.
But I mean, like those are going to be mechanical bulls, though, right? Like that's the way they go.
No, didn't they have like bull centaurs? Those were like centaur people.
No, but I don't think that they'll do that. Like if they're going to do it, right? Like they would do mechanical bulls.
I don't think so. I think they'd still be. I think they would still have. They would just make like them super heavy armored or whatever. Like it would be a thing.
Yeah, maybe.
So I don't know. Sure. Could it be a Chorf thing? Yes, it could. Could it be a Beasts of Chaos thing for the old world? Yep, it could be that as well. Those are both possible. But it's some kind of cow or similar leg. Bovine type leg. Good job on the painting. Whoever painted it. I like it. I like the little... Like, they did a very nice job of just, like, implying the fur without being too heavy with it. So that's nice. Is it your dog coming in?
Yeah,
your wife was giving you the dog?
No, she just poked her head in. She's decided that she busted through the door because she heard me talking in here. Come on up. Come on. No, come on.
Also, we're starting late, but it's not.
Come here. Come here.
We're gonna get to see Tom's dog. There you go. This is Tom's dog.
Early doggos. So you need to understand, Vince. I was watching the show. This last week, and your dogs came to visit as part of the show.
Yeah, sure. Yes.
And she heard them.
I know. I saw the clip.
Yeah, did I did send it to you. Okay. I saw it to Kathy. I didn't know if I sent it to you. She like got up in my face and was like looking at the screen and then looking at me like, where are my friends?
Yes.
What is happening right now?
Yes. So Tom's dog is a very good dog. She's or it's a he actually, right? Your dog is actually a
she. No, it's a she.
Okay, Charlie. Okay,
yep.
Yeah. So she is a very good dog. She is one of my dog's like actual
niece.
Yeah, niece. Yes.
Yep. Like so one of your girls, their sister is her mom.
Yes, there you go. So at any rate, they get along well.
And your parents have her mom now. Or no, Kathy's parents have your mom.
Have her mom, yes. Correct. Yeah, that's right. Yep. So hit like for dogs. Hit like for anything, whatever you like, but obviously for Tom's cute dog. And subscribe and all of that thing. I agree, Huey. Tom does need 3 more dogs.
We are going to likely be getting more, not 3, but more.
Sure, yes. That's how it always starts. It always starts that way. It's the Despicable Me meme
Yep.
We get another dog, then we get another dog, then we get all the dogs, right? It's that thing. Anyways, yeah, and don't forget super chats there if you want to throw some money at the show. It's appreciated and all that. Now, so yeah, that's the rumor engine. All right, cool. Dog break over. Next news item. Tom, is frogs.
Oh yeah, frogs. All the frogs.
Yep. These are arcane frog things for the transmutation scroll in the old world, so you can turn people into a frog. Okay.
I mean, I kind of like frogs.
Yeah, frogs are cute. I don't know about three-eyed frogs. That's weird, but
That's
like a
super
Simpsons
weird
thing. But like, neat. I'll tell you what I actually like about this. One of the reasons I put it in the news. I like that there's a thing in the old world that you can just turn the enemy caster into a frog. That's fun. It's just fun. And they were like, you could have just marked it with a token or something.
Yeah.
But they were like, you know what? Let's just make it a frog. Let's just make the frog. That's great. That's great. I want more things like this. I want more fun. This is fun. Okay? We're too on rails. People say that, like, oh, the better things get for the competitive environment, the better they get for the casual environment. That's not always true. That's not always true. That's simply patently false. Because you close off certain things that are just kind of silly and fun. Because it doesn't fit in the competitive world. Anyways, this is cool.
Hold on.
Did those Old World Wizards release yet? I think they did. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Old World Wizards came out. I think so. I don't know. I do want to pick one of them up. I haven't been to my game store.
They're
for
awesome.
A while.
They're great.
Yeah. I wanted to pick up the like the Celestial one or whatever. Thought that one was cool. Anyways, yeah. So that's that. And then relatedly, Tom, I suppose, to the frogs.
Yeah, high elves, not
That's
related
right.
to frogs at all. But
Well, I mean,
elves.
they're wizards and stuff. They're magical.
Hey, here's the deal. If you're looking for high elves and GW can't meet those needs, I'm sure that there's a ton on eBay that are still available.
That's right. I'm sure there are. I like this cover actually quite a lot. For their arcane journal, I think it's really good. I like that they kind of tilted it a little yellow, so it feels very sunny. Right, their armor doesn't feel like gleaming in silver. It's cool cover, cool art. Little jealous of the book covers, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, I'm excited for this one. This should be pretty cool. So we got to get you up here. You pick this up, get up here. We'll play it. We'll play some old world, and then we'll do a
I don't have a lot of high elves left. As much as the joke is, like, I've sold.
I got them. I got a ton of high elves.
Okay, well, I don't. So I'll have to borrow some.
That's fine. You pick up the book and come on up, and we'll roll some old world dice. Okay.
Sounds great.
There you go. Then we'll do a review. But I'd actually want to. Part of the thing that's keeping me from doing old world reviews is like I don't like doing a review of a book if I haven't played it at all. Like with all the AoS books that we cover, I actually do try to get a game or two in. Either playing it or playing against it beforehand. So I'm speaking with like some kind of experience.
Yep.
And it's hard because it's hard for me to get old world games in. So, anyways, okay. But super cool. And yeah, this weekend obviously goes on pre-order. So there you go. Okay. I think is that all our news?
I think so.
He said, remembering to grab his notes so he could timestamp things. All right. Well, Tom, let's go to some pick of the week. What do you got for everybody in your pick of the week this week?
No, I dropped the ball. I haven't been watching any YouTube stuff at all.
You haven't been watching any YouTube stuff at all. Did you listen to any podcasts? Did you see anything cool? Was there anything at all that you have participated in?
Nope.
Zero media.
I have not participated. I've watched a bunch of stuff about the new D&D Monster Manual.
Okay, well, that's fine. We can talk. That's a perfectly fine thing. Are you enjoying what you're watching?
I am. I have branched out into the D&D kind of pod or YouTubing world.
Yeah.
And let's see, where are they? Not the Bulwark. What else?
Slightly different.
Slightly different. So I've appreciated a channel, Tales of Pesh or Peshy. He's done a ton of it's super like cringy summaries of of Eberron, of like these little snapshots of like 15 minutes on House Cannith, or 15 minutes on Droam, or something like that, right?
You mean Droam?
Droam.
Droam. Yes,
indeed.
Absolutely.
So I've enjoyed some of his channel stuff. So
nice. Well, don't worry, I've got a Warhammer recommendation for you. Our good buddy Doug from 2 Plus Tough, who recently did an awesome lore thing on Slaves to Darkness, the Bloodwind Legions, if you want to check it out. I know I actually had some good questions about, or just like, I'm always interested in Slaves to Darkness lore. I actually find it to be kind of the most interesting. So, along with Skaven, Chaos in general, I suppose, really, because Chaos does all of the interesting things in the world, I guess. So, at any rate, our good buddy Doug yesterday put out a new lore video on that, so check it out. The Iron Fist of Archeon. You will find it linked below. Doug, great guy. Check it out. Let's talk about a little hobby time. So, hobby time, what have you been working on? What's been on your desk, buddy?
Yeah. What have I been working on? My basement is the answer.
Oh, we're back to that. Okay.
I'm hanging a new ceiling. So I'm like doing the whole like
sure. But in a drop ceiling?
Well, no, but it's it's all like I'm doing it all out of wood, like wood trim and paneling and all that. So it is a drop ceiling, but it's like a wood drop ceiling rather than like styrofoam or or not, whatever the the other ones. You know what I'm talking about, like what you have. Like the industrial ones, like it's like it'll be like custom one. So I've been working on that. We hung all the framing this last weekend, and we were painting this evening, but we were painting trim. Working on that. So I'm trying to get through that, because the next big hobby project is, and you're going to hate this, and I accept that, is I'm building a full D&D digital tabletop. So
terrible.
Yep. I know that it is not something you're excited about, but friend, I am excited about it. My kids are excited about it, which is what matters.
Well, that's what matters. I'm not the one who would play on it, so what does it matter? What did I think? Exactly.
I mean, not yet.
Sure. We got about 10 years before your kids get out of the house, then we'll come back to your place. All right, so want to shout out Josh. Thank you for the super chat, Josh. You said, hey guys, painting question. I'm looking for a brown leaning green for a greatcoat. I like using contrast and highlight from there using Citadel. Any suggestions? Thanks a ton. Well, I mean, my honest answer would be you like, not to be flippant, but you did kind of give your own answer. Pick any brown contrast and then highlight up by just mixing a little green, lighter mid-tone green into that brown contrast paint. Like, there's no reason you can't mix contrast into normal paint. It actually will help really easily to sort of blend together. You can kind of wet blend together with it too. Makes it really simple. I've done that sort of painting method a lot, where you just lay down a quick coat with contrast, then you just start mixing it into the normal paint. Go with like a 75-25 mix or 50-50 and so on and so forth as you layer your way up. Color wise, there's also the new like Tainted Garden from Army Painter. I know you said Citadel, but I don't use any Citadel, so I can't really help you there. That's a really nice like ochre brown green. It's really cool. It's in the like John Blanche color set, but it's really good. I like it a lot. But you could pick any kind of mid-tone green and that would be fine. And just kind of go up from there. Just pick a green that's already kind of browny, more hunter type green, and you'll be fine. And that's how I would attack it. Hopefully that answers your question, Josh. If there's more I didn't answer, just hit me up. And thank you for the super chat. All right. My hobby time, I have been painting something. Specifically, I painted this guy, Tom. Boom. Okay. There he is. I painted that goblin dude. Drogs, or whatever his name is. I don't know how to say it. But whatever this guy's name is, I painted him. He was really fun to paint. I didn't like painting very much this dumb thing on his back, like the sun or whatever. But everything else was really fun. The wolf especially is really good. He has like really amazing anatomy. And yeah, it's just like a lot of fun to paint him. I think the wolf came out really nicely. There'll be a there'll be videos about this guy that'll come out at some point. And there you go. We'll kind of give you a little front view there. There he is. And yeah, like, wasn't like a huge serious job. It's not for competition or anything. It was just kind of for funsies. And I really enjoyed painting him. He was like a nice break. I think he came out pretty
Goblin?
well. Goblin what?
So was it enjoyable enough to actually paint like
no.
Skull Force? No. Okay.
I'm not doing the rest. I
never know. Like, I thought I'd ask. There's always a chance.
Sure.
That for a future holy event that I've been itching to do some goblins, and I'm just saying.
No, this guy was great. He was just like really fun because he's like a fat little chubby goblin, which is awesome. He has like little neck rolls. Like that's how fat he is. It's great. He's such a characterful sculpt. And he's not like a lot of stuff going on. He's not super busy. He's actually like perfect. He's a perfect paint job. They put just the right amount of detail. The only thing I slightly take issue with is he has this extra garbage hanging from the bottom of his shield. That is literally the only thing there we did not need. We didn't need that rope with his little tufts and stuff. Yeah. Beyond that, it's all fine. It was good. I enjoyed him very much. So
he looks great.
Yeah, came out really fun. And he's a good chance to paint fur. I love painting fur. It's very relaxing. So yeah. And now exactly, that's right, Ian. He eats well, a sign of success. Yeah, I'm not hating on him. Live your best goblin life, my little dog. I love it. He was like just really fun to paint. So, anywho, stay tuned for, videos about painting this guy coming up. That'll probably, with everything I've got recorded, break into like the goblin and then the wolf, I imagine. just like, that's probably what will happen. Okay. So that was my hobby time. I got to figure out what I'm painting next. I think I'm going to do, there's a couple display models I want to get going. So I think it's time to get back into it there. I've got a good selection of Skaven done. I haven't totaled up my points yet. I really like what's weighing on me right now, Tom, is I really want to get 3 more Rat Ogres done. I want to have my full unit of 6 new Rat Ogres. That's kind of the thing that's in my way right now. Other than that, I'm pretty happy with where I'm at. So nice. That'll probably be coming at some point.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that once I get some bandwidth again, I'm going to sit down and keep painting my Skaven. Because I had brought them like all the way up to like fine detail work, but then stopped because I knew I wasn't going to be competing with them. So I want to finish their fine detail work. And actually, I pulled out everything that I would need for my 2,000 points Skaven list. Nice. So I will probably finish them in the what I'm currently working on, and then finish the rest of a 2,000 point list of Skaven.
Nice. By the way, I painted up the new Doom Flayers. There'll probably be a video on that in the future at some point too. They're really fun to paint. They're not annoying because the way they're made, you can just easily leave the little wheels off. Okay, the little outside wheel. It was really smartly designed. Very, very fun, fast paint job. So yeah. Would recommend, or not, did I say Doom Wheel? I meant, I didn't mean Doom Wheel. I meant Doom Grinders or whatever they're called. What are they called? You know what I'm talking about? The little ones.
Yeah, the Doom Flayers.
Doom Flayers. There we go. God, I couldn't think of the name. Yeah, the little Doom Flayers. I got to get another 2 of those done. So, because I have the full unit of 4, because those things rock. Anyways, talking about lists and getting towards your full 2-point list. Why, Tom, what a transition into list building in AoS 4.0. Why, how perfect. I think that's a great segue. Okay. So, list building, challenges and strengths in AoS 4.0. Hey, awesome. Very good, Chris. I'm glad to hear that Brewhammer was successful. That was the weekend I was very, very sick. So,
right.
But that's awesome. Is there any Warhammer simulator worth checking out? I mean, just TTS. Like, TTS has all the Warhammer stuff in it, so you just work in there. It's fine. H. Anthony says, join just in time for the main topic. That's right. Your timing is perfect. All right. So let's talk about list building. Zanbin says, I haven't played much AoS since 4th ed. Is list building still the same as launch, or did they fix the weird hero limits? A little yes, mostly no. How about that, Zanbin?
They're still there, but they did open up who can fit into those bonus slots.
Yeah. All right. So let's just kind of, I'm going to start here with a little summary. Okay?
Yep. Sure.
So I would argue list building as an activity is at its low point in the history of Age of Sigmar.
It's the worst.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like you know how list building was for me. Like I would agonize.
There's the juice for you. Yes.
Right. Like it was what drove the hobby for me, and I would agonize over the last 150 points. Like I would just cycle through all the different scenarios and all the different ways that like that last like 10% of a list would actually like fine tune, right?
Yep.
And now like that is non-existent. Like
sure.
I like looking at a list is something that I do because 80% of the list is already pre-decided before I even sit down. Because of necessary heroes in a faction, or particular things that push me in certain directions.
Yeah. I understand that there is variability here, like or there is some variance, I should say, amongst armies. Yep. I like some armies definitely have it better than others. Brand New Mate says, I prefer it to 3rd. I did not enjoy Battle Reg and Battle Line. That's fair. I mean, I understand that. I'm certainly not saying 3rd was the high point.
No.
My feeling is when rated on variability and fun, we're at a low point, right?
Mm-hmm.
The reality is exactly what you said. For a lot of armies, I'd say for 2/3 to 3/4 of the armies, a lot of your list tends to just build itself. Like it just happens. Now, there are about 1/3 or 1/4 of the armies that are exceptions. Okay.
Yep.
But like for some stuff, it's just so obvious. Because of the way battle tactics force a very particular construction, because reinforcements are just often essential. Like a unit that's not reinforced is basically worthless, right? If you're not a prospector unit, like
yep.
There's no such thing as a non-reinforced hammer, and units only really have 3 roles, right? Right now in the current edition, like hammer, buff, and prospector. Yeah. Right.
Yep.
And
anvils don't functionally exist.
No, there's just nothing that's tough enough to actually stand up to the hammers that exist in this world, right? Like anything can get lifted. And you can't really afford chaff, and the nature of the battle tactics in the current year, in the current season, forces your prospectors out to the sides.
Yep.
Right? Because you want to be set up to do the flanks and then sweep around behind and take their land. So your prospectors, who would normally be your chaff, are just like nowhere near your actual army. So like chaff doesn't exist anymore.
Yep.
And Chaos Knights can be decent hammers without reinforcement. I mean, I disagree. I just don't think I think they hit like
define hammer.
Yeah, I think they hit like paper. I think they hit like a wet noodle with 5 of them against anything else that they're trying to get at. Like, why would you not take 10? 10 can actually lift a unit. 5 is just going to like damage the thing. And if you get hit in the reverse, if you get flat-footed by 10 brutes or 6 Varangard or 6 Therodons, like the problem with Chaos Knights period is that there's like many better hammers in Slaves of Darkness right now. They're just like so quantifiably better. And Chaos Knights so easily get flat-footed and can't fight their way out. Like, don't get me wrong. I wish that was true. I'm not trying to like crap all over your opinion. I've tried 5 Chaos Knights so many times and just found them lacking.
Yeah.
Right? Put those things into 6 Kroiger and tell me that was the correct choice. Right? Watch as you lift maybe Kroiger, and then they turn around and explode you.
Yep.
Right? Or into 6 Agrodon Lancers. Okay? Which is the kind of stuff you're going to fight.
Right.
Right?
Right. Which you might lift a Lancer.
Yeah, sure. Sure. You'll probably get that out.
Yep.
Yeah, the issue with S2D isn't that Chaos Knights are bad. Most armies would actually kind of really like them. Right?
Yeah. It's just
And
that they're competing against Therodon,
Varangard chosen Therodons.
Yeah, Varangard chosen.
Which is there's no stack there, right?
I long for a world where that's just not the reality. And so I've just chosen for the list that we're going to review today, just build against the grain. Like someday we're going to get to a world where those things aren't meaningful in the same way. Or maybe we can force people to make bad decisions. That's the idea.
Like, Big Sexy said, so many armies have so many heroes that never get taken anymore. Oh yeah, absolutely, right. Yeah. Like there's just so many dead heroes on that list.
Like I'd love to see the data right on like what is being taken and what isn't.
Well, you have to understand, there's a lot of insane people in the world, Tom. If you look at as somebody who does look at a lot of data around this, there's a lot of insane people in the world who put things in their list. Okay, like when you're just aggregating all tournament data, that's not your question. Your question is, you need to segment that by then who has a 3-2 record, a 4-1 record, and a 5-0 record.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
Because like when you pile it all in, you're getting people who go 0-5, 1-4, and 2-3, and like there's a lot of people making a lot of bad choices with their list at tournaments, right?
Yep.
And so like there you go, and that's true, Kelly. Anymore, most heroes are shelf warmers every edition. You're absolutely right. I mean, this is kind of the worst it's ever been, but yes, that is very true.
Yep, it's true.
I think it's a lot of different issues coming together. Like, but I don't want to limit it just to like that. There's other elements here too, right? There's less choice points than at any sort of point in time in the past, right? Like your heroic traits and artifacts and things like that are all non-existent. Like you're not choosing a spell lore, you have one. You're not choosing a prayer lore, you have one. There's generally one heroic trait that actually is even any good if it happens to work for your build. There's generally one artifact that's any good if it even works for your build. There's often one sub-faction that's just like completely obvious because it's what you built for.
Yep. I had a build here that we'll look at that I just didn't have choice points. Right? Like I had no heroes that could have items or traits.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, I guess this is just life now, right? Like I don't even need to look at those things because and honestly, like it doesn't seem like it's that big of a loss because in general there weren't a lot of options. Like okay, maybe like okay, an additional cast on one of them, but in general it just was not significant. It's not a significant loss, which I think is more it's more damning of the fact that just how bad the codexes are, the battle tomes are.
Yeah. Yeah, CW, I don't agree with that. He said, behold the consequence of constantly complaining games are too big and constantly wanting price hikes. Universal point decreases across the board. Make armies again. I just don't agree with that. I don't think that's true. I started playing in 4th edition. Points were way higher. Armies were way smaller. There were still more armies. And I had tons of choice points. Tons.
You're saying 4th fantasy.
Yeah. 4th edition Warhammer Fantasy. That's not true. Like, the average army was minuscule. A skirmish force compared to AoS. Right?
Right, but there were a bunch of levers that you could turn.
Yeah, but I was pulling a ton of different levers, and like sometimes units were quite small, like 15 models, and sometimes I'd make them bigger, like 25 or whatever, right? Once in a while, I like in Skaven, you would have really, really huge armies. There's a lot of different. That's the thing. Trying to silver bullet this is the wrong answer. There's a stew of things that have come together to create this, right? Yep. The drops issue, as mentioned, yes, that's part of it. Everybody gets a 3-inch combat range. Suddenly made 10-man cavalry units really, really, really effective, right? And so reinforcement was always the choice. That's part of it. Simplifying the war scrolls down so that the only rules that basically matter on any non-hero scroll are offensive kill ones is part of it, right? Because now if you've got crit mortals or you've got a, hit like a truck for some reason, that makes you really good and reinforce it, right?
Yep.
Okay, like, and more. Like, there's just... all of those things are pushing together, right?
Correct.
To create this stew.
Well, to limit choice. Often.
Right, to limit the choice. And I'll agree with you to this point, CW. In that world where you have all of that stuff, and then you increase the points, right? What then occurs is that you get very limited armies, right? Because we don't have enough points for chaff. But the reality is, I don't think people would take chaff anymore anyways. Let's say we had enough to take like 300 extra points.
No,
I think people would just take another hammer.
Right.
Like the incentives right now, I'm telling you what I'll tell you what I wouldn't put in my list if I had those points. Chaff units. Because they're just going to get picked up, double piled in, and smashed into my line. I'm putting in another hammer.
Correct.
Okay, like instantaneously. Because on average, in past editions, at the end of third, you generally had 4 hammers. Now you generally have 3. People will go back to 4 as soon as they're able.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
So, there you go. Mogwai Man said, would more +1 hero options help? Oh, bonus heroes. Okay. We're not getting more enhancements or battle formations. I think that's worth a little discussion here. I think that you would. It's not just that there are more bonus heroes. I think maybe we've got about the right number of bonus heroes. I think we could give a couple more out, but I think it's also unlocking who can take those bonus heroes, because that's actually the choke point in a lot of armies now, is that these 5-6 heroes are all bonus heroes, but to get at those bonus, you can only take 0 to 1 of them, and only one guy unlocks them, and it's well, okay, what do we do here? Right? We didn't actually make them bonus heroes then, because I've got to take this big special character or something to get the bonus hero out there.
Yeah.
Right. So, that's an issue. The drop war thing is absolutely a thing, and the reality is you get a second honor guard thing is good, but it clearly didn't make a huge indent. Yes, you can play to it, and I have some lists I built where I'm doing that, but for the most part, it's still your incentive is to go, to go to 2 drops, right?
Yep.
So, yep. So yeah, there you go. Okay. Any other general things before we when we get into the lists, we'll talk about some specifics as we get in there, because we'll talk, that'll come up organically as we talk about in the lists, what's strong and what's weak. Now, I do want to leave on a positive note here. Okay. The advantage of this list building style and how it's construed is that I do think it is much easier for newer players. Okay. If you look at the thing and it's oh, this guy can take these things. Okay, cool. I get it. It's much simpler to explain how to build a list and to have a new player get into it and do it. So my issue is not lowering the skill floor. My issue is that we lost the magic of Go or something like that, or those games, is that it's very simple to learn, but it takes a long time to master, right? The strategies are very complicated. We don't have that high ceiling here for most armies.
No.
Right.
That's true.
And to me, I feel that's just a limitation of how much we've restricted down a lot of those other choices we can make. A little bit of that is coming back in through Regiments of Renown or stuff like that, but honestly, most of the time, I just don't feel they're very worth it.
No, and they've dialed back the power of things like Regiments of Renown, so that's not honestly, we could talk about fixes, but I don't want to run down that rabbit trail too much. But I think that a big piece of it is increasing some of the choice points that are getting made, and if they can't put them in battle tomes, I wonder if there are other rules packs that can be deployed, realm rules, right, that could introduce items and traits for armies from specific realms or something like that.
100%. That's just it. We could stack more things on there, you could do more with, because a lot of those things. Yeah. You could put on more spell lores. You could have seasonal spell lores, regional spell lores, where it's oh, if you're from this thing, you have this other choice. You could do it. You could build these expansion books. I know that because GW does it. We just literally had a picture of one up in the old world, because that's how the old world does it. They introduce the arcane encyclopedias or whatever they're called, and they rule. The Arcane Journal. Yeah. And they rule. They're really fun. And it's great. Branu Mate said, I think we do have to talk about how battle line style infantry is pretty bad almost across the board. Only really clan rats are an obvious exception. No, you're right. It's because what does an infantry block in the current edition do? What's its purpose? Almost nothing.
To be attacked by cavalry.
Yeah, in a world where you can't really have, where anvils just don't really do anything, I'm not sure what the point of an infantry block is, especially 1 wound infantry blocks that cap at 20 wounds. Like, why? When I can have easily build units that are 30 or 40 wounds and have those be so much more effective, right?
And have greater mobility.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's slow, it's not durable, and if they die, if they have a low save, then you're really in a rough place. Now, that's true. Gut Rippers were cool for a minute, then that went away. The one force that we made the mistake of saying,
well, and they were 2 wound. Like they were
sure,
40,
they were 2 wound models.
40,
Yeah, they were
40 wound block. I mean, they're not like wardens.
Yeah, sure. No, I agree. Assistant Ref said if you let infantry be reinforced while nothing else could, that would give it a roll. Yeah, I think that's like if like cavalry couldn't be reinforced, if cav was capped at 5 models or something, right? I don't know about monstrous infantry type of things. I think probably they're still fine because they're still mostly infantry.
I disagree.
But like it would,
you think Kroiger would be fine if they could be reinforced to 6?
I don't. What I'm saying is like it's a much harder line to cut universally. There's probably a lot. There's a lot of like monstrous type infantry that it's probably fine with, and there's some that it's bad with, right? Whereas like cavalry gets problematic almost across the board. So, are we too focused on balance? Do you mean from the game design perspective? I don't know.
I just like have fun, and right now it's not fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think that going down the road we have, which is driven by a lot of factors, has put us in a place where a lot of unit types, a lot of choices just get made for you, right? Now you can go against the grain, and if like you're in a group where you and your friends all like kind of, don't play in a certain way, then you can still then the world becomes much more open, right?
Yeah, and like one thing that we haven't talked about is when we talk about weapon ranges, like so the game used to have some counterplay
right
around like pulling additional units in, right?
Sure.
So that like that that cavalry unit charges in, right? But they may pull another unit in, which is 3 inches out, blah, blah. But here's the problem. Now, if they pull a unit in, they're also all viable combat targets.
Yeah, sure. Because like that other unit you pull in, almost the whole thing's going to fight almost automatically, right? Like pinning is a real cost. And by the way, if you don't pin them and you just let them be there, then you're just going to get countercharged, and you're going to be in the same situation.
Correct.
Yeah,
correct. Yeah, so it's just there's this real weird intersection of consequences with everybody has 3-inch reach weapons, and then how that actually interfaces with unit ranges and threat ranges. Yeah, and like agreed. Pulling other units in, because now like there used to be pulling another unit in was suddenly a threat because they would come in and then attack, and they would often not like there'd be a counterattack built into the actual combat. Now that unit that charged in is going to have reach on everything, and it's going to be able to generally lift like again the high damage stuff. It can lift potentially multiple units when they come in.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. ZK said once per army stuff also kind of makes it appealing to run things like your 3 Mangler bosses, for example, since only one can do impact hits for some reason. Yeah, that's another thing. Like a lot of the big monsters just for some reason have these like they can only do once per turn army, right? So it's just like because they don't want you to actually run multiple. Well, it's like why? Was this a problem? Was running multiple of this bad thing a problem? You know what I mean? Like we just our attention's in the wrong place. Right? We put all these restrictions on the actual fun things, and then just let the mass go nuts with your high damage, high efficacy, high mobility troops and just smash, right?
Yeah.
Whenever I say smash, by the way, okay?
Sure.
Just like all I think in my head is of Rogers the musical from Hawkeye. It was just where he's like got the little rock and he's like dancing around. Hawkeye was great. Okay, anyways. Watch Hawkeye. I watch it every year at Christmas. Okay. Yeah, really. I do. It's a Christmas show. It happens in the 7 days leading up to Christmas. It's a perfect watch.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay. At any rate, let's talk lists. Let's get into it. Okay.
Okay. We are going to I'm going to qualify my list from the very outset and say, these aren't necessarily good.
No, we made them to talk about lists we wanted to make and to express some of the challenges we had. If you want to know what competitive lists are, just go download the 5.0 lists from any random tournament. Like, you don't need us to tell you how to net list.
Correct.
Okay. I wanted to make lists that I thought were fun and things I want to play.
Yeah, and to also illustrate challenges.
Yes, and that I think will give an interesting game, right? Like a play experience is what I mean there. But also, like, be fun to play against. Okay, so I've got 2 Skaven lists here. And the
I'm
first
so
one...
glad that I didn't build a Skaven list, because I almost built a Skaven list, and I was like, Vince is definitely building a Skaven list.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of show 2 lists up against each other here, right? So one is, the first list is a list that I've run a couple of times, and that I actually quite like. It's a bit weird and silly, but it's actually pretty fun. Now it does have 6 rattling guns in it.
It does.
Okay. Doesn't have 12 or anything like that. If you don't like it, if you don't like those rattling guns, you can put in like warp fire throwers or something like that. Those would fit. It's fine. And you'd have a little extra points. You could do, like, I'm not trying to say it's the perfect list. But anyways, I've got my Giselles. So, like, I've got kind of different contingents. So I want to talk about these 2 lists. Skaven is one of the most fun armies to build with. Okay?
Yep.
There are a couple of things that I almost always work into a list. So, for example, most of my lists have a Gray Seer, right? And most of my lists end up having at least 1 unit of Night Runners in it. Night Runners can act as Chef. They can act as... they end up being good prospectors. They have a pregame move. They're just generally good at 130 points. And they have, like, crit mortal, so if they go fight with other prospectors, they can actually do pretty well. Or if they can, like, jump a little hero or something, right? So, but I've got my different contingents. I've got my little Arch Warlock who cruises around and has the auto, counterfire with 6 Giselle, 6 Rattling Guns, and 10 Globadiers. I actually have come to really like Globadiers. They're very difficult to use. That's why I don't think a lot of people use them, because they do have a pretty short range. Okay. But I like them a lot. They're fun. And then I've got the Gray Seer. He's rocking 2 Plague Claws and some Night Runners.
Sure.
There's no Clan Rats in this list, by the way. In either of these lists.
I see that.
I've actually, like, started to turn against Clan Rats. I'll just say that. Okay. Even though they're, like, the most reliable thing in the army.
Do they lift too easily?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
I really think
I have 80 of them in one of my lists.
Yeah.
And I just understand what I'm doing. Like, I know what that is, and I also know that, like, I will lose 1 to a charge, like, every time.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. People in the comments are mentioning that, like, copying a 5.0 list doesn't give you success. I mean, 100%. It's the pilot matters a lot. If it didn't, you'd see different people at the top of tournaments, but you keep seeing the same people over and over again, even though they pilot different lists. Yeah.
Yep.
But at the same time, it's not like there's some magic to it. Like, there's good thoughts. Like, there are players who are just above and beyond. There is a cohort of players who just really are great players and are, like, just better than the vast majority of us. At any rate, I feel like people sleep on Plague Claws. I think they're really good. And then the Warlock.
I used one at the whole event 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's really good, right?
And it was great. Like, it did work, and it does great job jumping through gnaw holes and just shooting.
Yeah. And there's, like, lots of fun targets for it. It often can like, it's good. Big damage thing. So yeah, it works for cheap points with a really long range. It's artillery that can actually do something.
Forced Sean Troy to use 2 Zinch dice to save his guy. Otherwise, I was going to lift his Curseling.
Nice. And then the Bombardier with a Warp Blaster, and then 2 Doom Wheels. First of all, 2 Doom Wheels. So much fun. This has a lot of different options. Like, I can keep the Night Runners in the middle and then put the Doom Wheels out on the side to be my flank prospectors or whatever, and then they come in shooting, which means they're still useful even though they're out on the side. Yep. And so, like, I've run this a couple times. I use Kronspine with it because the Gray Seer can power out Kronspine really, really easily, and that ends up being your other chaff to get in the way. Yep. Like, Kronspine is just there to be chaff. And, like, threaten people.
Yep.
Right. And This is a really fun list to build. There's lots of ways you could tug on this and pull this around. Like you have different things. It's 3 drops. If I end up getting higher, if I end up being higher drops, I don't care. Like than other people, I can certainly pick 2 honor guard things, and that's fine. I don't really mind. It's okay. But yeah, overall, it's good.
I'm surprised that you didn't try to integrate the bombardier in for the +2 movement.
Oh, put the guy into the actual thing. Yeah, sure. I needed the other hero to handle the other units. You know, like again, yes, there is ways you could. This one doesn't tend to have the need to use the +2 movement,
right? Because you don't have as much infantry,
right? Yeah. So it's just not as much of an issue, right?
That's fair.
Like this one will just tend to be able to shoot its way out of anything. Like there will come a point in the game where you just start marching your guns toward people, and be like, what are you gonna do?
Sure.
Like it's my turn. They march up directly towards you. Go ahead. What's your option here? Are you going to come at me? Great. Come at me.
Yeah.
And then I go weapons free and lift your unit off turn.
Yeah, get in range of everything.
Right. Like there's just no, you will eventually wither them down and they just will have no options. Yeah. Like you will be able to push your guns forward.
Yep. And you can put Giselles back on the table. You can put Rattling Guns back on the table. You can put Globadiers back on the table. You can put the Night Runners back on the table. Like all of that stuff just can get set back up for a command point.
Yep. Okay. The other list, and then again, this is why Skaven is a lot of fun. I actually think it's one of the most fun armies to build in. The bonus hero selections are good. The heroes all have really nice open access to those bonus heroes. It's not like weirdly segmented. So here you've got the Flesh Meld Menagerie. So this is a Molder build. You got a Master Molder, 6 Rat Ogres, 6 Rat Ogres, and a Brood Terror. I actually stand the Brood Terror. I wish he was still a little bit cheaper. I think he's slightly expensive, but he's fine. Then you got a Grey Seer with a Plague Pack. So the priest's there, the best priest unit in the game, right? And you can his like little puff, the Magic Dragon power is really good at a distance because he doesn't have to be in combat to actually do it. He's best charging in like beside the Rat Ogres, so they have to split their attacks, and then they won't bring him down, and he'll just heal. You got the Night Runner still, you got a Doom Wheel still, those are your Prospectors. You got a Claw Lord. Here you want the +2-inch movement a lot, so the Claw Lord's there to just absorb the +2-inch movement. Yep. If you get a second buff, you're just going to give your Rat Ogres like anti-whatever they happen to have. Okay. And then you've got a Warlock Bombardier who brings 4 Doom Flayers, which is just like a great sort of lunatic suicide charge thing, because the 4 Doom Flayers, if people don't know what those are capable of, they're absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, and you're basically counter-charging with those, right? Like you're coming in something else. Like they come into your Rat Ogres, and you're going to come into to theirs as a secondary charge. Yeah,
that's right.
Yep,
that's exactly right. So this gives you access to the prayers very easily. It through the Plague Pack, which is a very sort of reliable priest you can just keep praying with. Again, Kronspine, the Grey Seer, powers out, and it's just like one more melee threat to be in the way and block off counter charges and stuff like that. Both of these are very fun lists. I've played both of them multiple times. I enjoy them. I've also played variations on these multiple times. Like Skaven is everything right with list building to a point. Like there's actually multiple different heroic traits.
Yeah.
That I like. There's multiple different artifacts that I like. Okay. I tend to take, like, just because I tend to have Scurry Away doesn't mean it's the thing I always have. Yep. There's, like, you actually have real choices when it comes to your manifestation lore. Like, sometimes Kronspine is really good, but they can also dip into other things like Primal. The Skaven lore is perfectly good. I love having the Skaven lore depending on my thing, so I can bring up the Belladam, put out the Bubble, neg 1 to wound. To me, like the Skaven would have been when we got this book, if they had expanded the Battle Tome out. No, it was fun in the index, Chris. It really didn't have to do with that. They got the points to a relatively good place. You've got good options. You don't generally feel bad if you forced to go first or something like that. Like you don't mind losing the drop war. Like I've built Skaven lists that are like 4 or 5 drops, and I don't care. Yeah. I generally have the pieces that I can go handle that stuff.
Oh no, make me go first so that I can shoot before you go.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. you have a good mix of troops. Like you can put credible melee threats on the table. You can put credible shooting threats on the table. It's just like the army has the right amount of variability. What would have been perfect is if they had made the right choice, and when we put out the book, they actually introduced more traits, more artifacts, more choices along that way. Yep. They didn't. But that's the general systematic.
Can I say something contentious?
Sure, go for it.
I think that they should have built out traits and items based on subfactions. And so for every subfaction that they introduce, and not necessarily lock them to that, right? But have traits and subfactions that align with, so for example, in Skyr, you have your cog, your warp cog, whatever, right? Like the subfaction. I also think that there should have been some Skyry themed traits and items.
I see what you're saying. Well. Make sure there's an obvious alignment between them and the subfactions.
Right. And so that like they would have 3 Skyr items and 3 Pestilence items and 3, so that there's like that there was a variety of flavor, even if there wasn't like you could or could not lock as appropriate. Right.
Sure.
Like I know that's a world that we used to live in, but I think that there would be value in it.
Yeah. I mean, my answer is I wouldn't like that. Honestly, because it would make it very linear and potentially even make less choice. I mean, if you had like 3 choices per thing.
Right.
I understand. But it would still become obvious. It'd be soft incentives. Maybe if you had like 3 per, so you had like 12 items or something crazy.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. Like 12 items.
Then I could see it. Yeah. But like, I would really, that'd be fine. That's a better world than where we are now. No doubt. Okay.
Right.
I would still have rather just said the subfactions are actually playstyle based, and the heroic traits and artifacts build on those different playstyles, so you can lean more into different things, right? That's like that would be the better way to go. But I mean, they do just need to like they clearly need to increase the consistency of these things. I don't know how we're 10 years into this and we still can't get consistency when we're down to 3 items each. It's crazy. At that point, I do want them to just make like 18 or 12 items, because then on numbers, if this is the rate we hit, then just put 18 in the book. That way I get like 6 that are interesting. Yeah, like 3 to 6 that are viable.
Yeah.
If 1 and 3 is the hit rate, then and that's the best we can do, then we're just gonna have to increase the raw number to get the actual choice points.
This is a design problem, right?
Yeah, it always has been. Yeah. And I mean, look, it's not as though like when we had the 84 potential items or whatever you could take in what was that thing called with the realm artifacts or whatever, there was about 10 that were even worth considering, right? But there was 10 that were worth considering.
10. Right. Now sometimes there's not one.
Yeah, sure. Sometimes you get less than 1, which is awful. Yeah, I agree, Bob Goblin. It was always a 1 to 3 hit rate. Hit like for a 1 to 3 hit rate, apparently. Yeah.
I mean, like, how amazing would it be if we had like realm items again and realm spell lores that we could sub into and just options?
Yeah, no, I would love it. I would also love it if we just like did the armies of renown more fully and had more of those. Like that could be another way to get around
that were viable.
Yeah. More like how the old world does their equivalent of armies of renown, right?
Here it is, GW. Here's your splat book. Armies of the Mortal Realms.
Yeah.
And what you can do with that is you do a set of spell lore, items, traits, and regiments of renown for armies in those realms. And you do each of the realms. So you do like an Akshi one, you do a Highish one, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly.
Make it happen.
I would love that.
That book writes itself, creates a ton of new options, and creates some diversity for army building.
Yep. Agreed. Okay. So I think the point being, though, I think Skaven is in a relatively good place. It's fun. Why is it good, though, is what's interesting. It's good because, 1, there's variability. The different sub-factions actually do lead to wanting to make different choices, right, of your units. There is enough units there to make that function. It can play in different spaces and different play patterns and things like that, and still give a relatively interesting game in all of those cases, right? So part of that is certainly derivative of the fact that you have so many war scrolls, right? But part of it is also just that, like, there is more than one interesting magic item. There's more than one interesting heroic trait. There are multiple manifestation lores that can be viable. You know, I'd still like more than that, right?
Yeah.
But, hey, there you go. UT Rage said 1 in 3 hit rate is the same as likes to viewers on right now. It's universal. Well, show GW you're better than them by hitting that like button. And thank you to everybody who's commenting and talking and keeping the chat going. I appreciate it. Anybody who throws that super chat, it's also greatly appreciated. Very much. Okay. Daughters of Cain. So I did a Daughters of Cain list here, Tom, and it's funny people mentioned the infantry one because I wanted to talk about daughters. And daughters are living in that infantry world, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, that is the world that they live in.
Yep. So, Hendrik says, when it comes to manifestations, you are so opposed to the shared lores, yet you expect for the spell lores to be better. I'm not sure what you're saying. Are you saying, like, yes, in general, I don't like the shared manifestation lores and wish they would go away.
Well, I think they're saying that, like, that they've botched the shared manifestation lores. Why would a shared spell lores be any better? If they created, like, 8 new shared spell lores, they're probably going to make a winner that everybody always takes.
Yeah, no, I would want to see army-specific stuff more than I'd want to see shared things.
Well, here's what I was actually pitching is you have a high-ish thing. And when you opt into that, you're opting into an ecosystem. You're not selecting and choosing. And so what I'm saying is that by...
I get you. Yeah, like an army of renown.
You're going to get the lores, you're going to get the items, and you're going to get the traits of Haish, not your racial ones.
I'm with you.
And so, yes, you can opt into that spell lore because Haish is really good, but guess what? You don't get your other toys.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
Right. So, like, there would be real choices to be made.
Yep, that's fine. I mean, like, again, I'm always wary. Like, Hendrik, you're correct. I'm always wary of universal stuff. That is just reality. Because if something can very easily come to the top. But again, what I would love to see, like, Tom's idea is interesting. I think if I was doing it, I'd want to see, again, army-specific stuff. Like, I would want to see more army-specific options. Like, expand the armies of renown in a big way. Like, the Skaven of place X, and so on and so forth, right? Yeah. So in that way, you've got more, you build into A or you build into B. But anyways, neither here nor there.
Yep.
Okay, so Daughters of Cain, in my mind, is, like, very challenging to list build with because their heroes are so locked to certain particular things. Like, if you're not taking Marathi, right? This is the classic case of, like, the special character can unlock everything, but she's only one thing, right?
Yep.
And if you take, like, the Slaughter Queen or Hag Queen ladies, you get access to this half of the book. If you take the Snake Lady bosses, you get access to this half of the book, and never the twain shall meet. And that means list building is, like, actually really often restricted because you have the way you're trying to get your units in, right? So this is like a missile list right here, like the Slaughter Queen on Cauldron of Blood, who can buff the Sisters of Slaughter with an additional attack, right? You've got the High Gladiatrix, which can buff them with an additional rend, and the idea is you're just, like, praying to God with the Bloodrack Shrine. You're just rolling hot and hoping against hope that you get off a spell name. Tom, what's their spell? Mind Razor. There it is. Yeah. That you get off Mind Razor. I wanted to call it Mind Rack, and I'm like, nope, it's not it. It's not the right thing. Anyways, you get off Mind Razor, and then you just send the missile forward and hope it kills something, right? And if it's fully buffed, it will do damage. If it's not, they die, like, just that, right? And you're just literally feeding things at them and trying to play a tempo trade game. That's all this list. That's all this is capable of. That's all Daughters is. because they're generally not fast enough with any of their stuff to compete in the other game. Now, one thing I didn't like, I have the High Gladiatrix here in that faction, because certainly my choice would be to take the +2 move, right?
Yeah,
because and then just like she's going to be center mass, so that as many of my sisters and the Snake Ladies, the Blood Sisters, can all get that +2 inch move. Huge deal, going from 6 to 8 and 8 to 10, right? Life Takers are on the flanks to be prospectors and so on. But like, this list is going to feel like you are fighting against somebody swinging a chainsaw around when you have like a fencing rapier. Like, if you make one wrong move, you're dead. You lose your arm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because just everything here is so fragile. Your whole army is so fragile. Right? So, you know, Vindicatus, I think you're probably pretty close. I don't think that's wrong at all. H. Anthony says, my kingdom for a priest that can take snakes. Yeah, sure, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. 100%, Anthony. Like, that's Daughters of Cain, to me, illuminates two major problems with list building. One, the new regiment system just completely puts you on rails. It's even more choice point reduction, right? Because you're like, oh, you wanted a priest? Well, I hope you like snake. Or sorry, I hope you like foot elf ladies. You wanted a wizard? I hope you like snake ladies. Those are your choices, right? H. Anthony says, just played Doc tonight, and yep, missed a buff on my missile, sent it down mid anyways, lost the game round 1. Yeah, I mean, that's just it. Like, you got to get all the buffs off, and then you send in the missile, and you hope it's enough. And then you hope, and then something's going to move up, kill that unit, then you send in the next missile. And you keep playing the RNG game of hoping that, like, all of your buffs that you have to get off through spells and prayers to make your units actually effective happen.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know how this is how we build books, making it so like you have to play this unbelievable game of RNG with their units when other books are just like, nah, we get to just do awesome stuff. Right?
I get to just double pile in.
Yeah, sure.
With all of my hammers.
That being said, you know, this is like a perfectly valid list. Like, it does put a lot of bodies on the table, doc style. You know, you've got 40 Sisters of Slaughter, 20 Blood Sisters, 10 Life Takers. You know, it's not bad. The Slaughter Queen can mix it up. I like her a lot since her points went down. And so, you know, and I think she's cool. She can do a little bit of damage herself. She gives the buff to the Hag Queen, so you've got the whole shared priest thing. You know, it's good. Means your prayers tend to get off. So.
Excuse me.
Anyways, that's my experience with Daughters, is it suffers very badly from the regiment thing. Really, really badly. And from the underlying issue of, like, by the way, everything here is reinforced that should be reinforced. Taking any of these things this is like, if you took any of these things non-reinforced, you're out of your mind. They're worth nothing. It's absolutely the reinforcement problem. Joe Mullen says, bless you, Tom. Midwest Wargames. Hey, Vince V, had to make a Walmart run. Did you already go over the cities? I have the Spearhead box and the dude on Ogre. What's the next move? I didn't talk about any cities list. We don't have any cities list tonight, sadly. Neither Tom nor I really play cities, so I want to make lists. Yeah,
but it's not a viable army right now unless you're running knights and shooting.
Yeah, I mean, the dude won LVO with cities, so it must be doable somehow. You just must not be good enough, Tom. But what would you do after that? Make it just a Spearhead box and a dude on the Ogre. What's the next move? I don't know. I mean, if it was me, I would get some Dark Elf stuff going. That's what I'd say.
Yep, I'd. If you want to do humans, I would get to 10 knights.
Like, I'd get my executioners and my sorceress going. That would be my next move.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. So, you know. That would be my thought. I
Peace
generally
Layer-
like the elf stuff, and honestly, even the dwarf stuff more than I like most of the human stuff.
Fusiliers are just not that good anymore.
Sure. Browning Mate says Dark Riders all day, every day. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's my big fear, Assistant Ref, is I don't know how long all the rest of that Dark Elf and City stuff, or sorry, Dwarf stuff stays around. It's
right. I mean, this is the big question mark for me. Like, I would want to paint up the human stuff, but it's just not the most competitive right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, time will tell. Cold Parasite says Hammers and Rune Priest. Yeah, the other option, right? It's like Executioners and the Sorceress or Hammers and the Rune Priest. I guess either of those are good. Get the other contingent in there.
Yep.
Okay. So next up, I built a Slanesh list. I kind of stacked these so that we cross over on the next one, Tom, and then it'll be your list.
So you did 4 lists? Didn't you say 3 lists to me?
I did 4 because you sent along a freaking Ironjaws list. How did you not expect me to build an Ironjaws list?
I don't know, but
there you go. Okay. So, Slanesh. I hate Slanesh lists. Slanesh lists combine everything I despise in building a list. Like, everything. Everything is wrong with them. First of all, like, I hate the way their bonus heroes are structured. This is the choke point thing I was talking about. Like, yay, Sigvald can be a bonus hero, and the Mask can be a bonus hero. Okay, well, the only people who can take them, or whatever, like, your bonus heroes you're going to want, because one is a demon and one is a whatever, is like the Shard Speaker and your Keeper of Secrets. And the Keeper is Garbo. I mean, I want her to be good. She just is. She's a garbage model. She's not, like, it's just very bad at that point. I cannot get over why we can't get good rules behind the Keeper. It continues to infuriate me. Bloodthirsters get to have good rules. Lords of Change. All right, well, Kairos, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like, I wish they would just actually make the greater demons. They're not. They're very weak demons. Anyways, so you have so many special characters. Your bonus heroes are a choke point. The number of times I have built a list and not even cared or worried about the heroic trait and artifact, as by the way, I didn't even realize that until like right now, that I could have added one. I could have given the Shard Speaker something. I just literally didn't. So assume you pick something.
You could do the Infernal Rapturous, right?
The Infernal Rapturous is a bonus hero. She's the 100-point one that's a bonus hero.
Okay.
What about her?
You said you were talking about bonus, given a trait or an item.
Oh, yeah, sure. I'm saying, like, who do you... Like, in my list, look at who my heroes are. Celeste, named character. Sigvald, named character. The Mask, named character, right? Yeah. Sinessa and Dexessa. Well, I've built lists with both of them. Both special characters, right? So oftentimes I just don't end up taking heroic traits and artifacts at all. Betty says the Keeper's rules are good in 40k. Okay. And so... You know, what I like in my Slanesh is I want to run a lot of demon stuff. I like the demon side.
Yep.
That's what I want to run. Jack LaRue says Gludos, 10 Twin Souls, Painbringer as bodyguard, and 20 Bliss Barb is my favorite starting template. Yeah, I hate shooters. Yep. I hate the shooters in general. I'm sorry. I don't like them. I don't mind taking some of the mortal stuff. I like Twin Souls. I like, Hellstriders, things like that. But, like, I want to play my demons. Like, that's what I like. So I'm really like this book is so frustrating to me.
Like for the Slanesh stuff, like I want to play Mortals if I played them. So this list isn't completely terrible to me, and I mean it has a lot of demons in it, but I do like the pieces that you are using though.
Sure. I mean, again, no Bliss Barbs, no shooters, right? I have none of them in here because again, I just don't like, and like Bliss Barb Seekers are obviously better. They're just really good. They're cheapest chips for what you get out of them, and they're just really good. Okay. I just don't care to use them, and it's a problem. I hate when you have, like, why do I have to build the shooty version of this army? Like everything about list building in Slanesh is frustrating to me right now. Like the heroes and who they can take is frustrating. The overwhelming number of special characters is frustrating. The heroic traits and artifacts are bad. The most of your demon units are worthless. Like your daemonettes suffer from exactly what we were talking about, the 20 wound cap with a crap save, right? So they're just basically worthless. This is an attempt to exploit all the cav, like 10 Slick Blades, 10 Hellstriders, 10 Seekers, right? All of whom can benefit from Seeker Cavalcade and Silver Charge. Yep. So it's just all reinforced cav units because they actually can, even your cheap Hellstriders and cheap Seekers can actually do significant damage on the charge in large units like this.
Yeah.
The Hellstriders having +1 damage on the charge and the Seekers being just like a really fast unit because the way they can run. Jack LaRue, I agree. Keepers need to slap, right? They should. They're greater demons. Like, I'm not asking for the mortal side to be bad. I don't care. Like, they should be good. I'd like it to be an interesting build and a viable build as well. I would just like the army to be viable in multiple playstyles. Why is that weird? Okay. But it just the problem is none of this stuff actually hits hard enough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
And so, like, this list has basically a bunch of half hammers. The Slick Blades are the only actual hammer in this list.
Yeah.
Which is a non-starter.
Yeah.
Right?
It's true.
And so it's just going to get lifted. And, like, you know, I took Kronspine because you're hoping to tie something up with it. But, again, you got to power it out with a Shard Speaker, which is unlikely. Right. What you're gonna do is obviously just prick her finger on the Fane so that she can get the bonus to cast and then try to get it out. Like, that's what you're gonna do. So it's effectively casting on a 7, which is fine. But okay.
Yep.
Yeah, Assistant Ref says they need to update the Keeper of Secrets model to have more arms so it can have more attacks. Yes, because as we all know, you can only have 2 claw attacks since it has 2 claws. Just like everybody with 1 sword only gets 1 sword attack. That is universally true in the game. Right? So, there you go.
Yep.
As we all know. So, like, basically, yeah, exactly. You've got to take Kronspine to just get more beef, right? That's what it is. It's just like trying to get some actual beef on the table. So this is like the closest thing, Tom, I've come to a list I can pilot, and it's still not using any of the units I actually want to use. Like, I want to use my Keeper, I want to use Shalaxi, I want to use, you know, Sinessa and Dexessa, but all that stuff is just bad.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And there's just like 50 heroes in that list you're never going to take, by the by. I have the 2 Secret Chariots because they've actually at 90 points are good prospectors. Right? Yeah. Yep. Like, because they went to 90 points and they're prospectors that can automatically cross the line because of their speed.
Yeah.
That's the only reason they're there. That's 180 points for your prospectors. That's a good deal.
That's a steal.
Absolutely. Like, those are great prospectors. The mask is great because it can help you decide turn order even when you're 3 drops. Because, like, if somebody has a bunch of unprotected shooters, you can just drop 3 inches away from them and then they have to go first or whatever. You can confidently set up outside their range, drop the mask in the deployment phase, and then be like, well, you've got to take first or she's going to go murder all your shooters and tie them up. Yep. Right? Yes, you throw her away, but you throw her away to decide turn order. Right?
Yep.
So, it is a good thing I can use all these models in Rain and Hell. I agree. And I agree, Jack. I've tried to make Shalaxi work so many times. I have beat my head against that wall until it's bloody. She just does not work. Because people just don't take that many heroes. There's like 2 heroes, and most of the time they're not fighters. Right? They're things that like want to sit in the back of the line. So, yeah. Okay. I think Slaanesh is probably the most frustrating list building experience. It suffers from every single problem we've mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? Extremely forced list building, 1 effective playstyle that works, extremely restrictive factions, weird bonus heroes with weird choke points on like who can take what. Everything's a freaking special character. Your heroic traits and your artifacts are bad. There is simply, you have no real hammers. Like, what's going on here? Right? And by the way, to actually give any of these subpar units special abilities, you have to give your opponent an extra battle trait.
Right.
Great.
Give them some free dice. Yeah.
Give them free dice, yes. Now, the advantage is the average player you play at a tournament, you'll hand them the 3 dice, and then they will literally forget they exist.
No, they don't want the risk reward, right? Like, they don't want to take...
Trust me, they forget they exist. That's what will happen. And then you'll remind them at the start of the next turn, and they'll be like, "Oh crap, I forgot those. I had those. Yeah, okay, cool." And then they'll forget they exist again. It is amazing. Yep. They go into the memory hole. Now the problem is 10% of players who are good will remember they exist and use them to bust your butt. Right?
Yeah, they're like, "Yes, I will take a 12-inch auto charge."
Yes. Well, they'll use it when they're at 7 inches, and they know that even if the dice rolls a 1 or 2 and they hurt themselves, they still auto nail, because a 7-inch countercharge is actually fairly risky to spend 2 command points on most of the time. Like, it's going to be worth it, but that's a risky roll. 40% chance of just blowing 2 command points on nothing, but you know you've got it in the bank automatically. Like, that is the worst thing you can roll with those dice. Basically, you'll have a very small percentage chance of getting a 3 or 4. But
2 ones. Yeah.
Okay. People just forget.
Yeah.
All right. Iron Jaws. Here's the transition point, Tom. Of course I built an Iron Jaws list. I think Iron Jaws somehow actually came out better in after the update.
Yeah. I agree. Just because points went down. Like, the only reason is points
and the +2 move were like the biggest deal in the world to them, right?
Yeah.
My only complaint, so here we have a comparison between Tom and I's lists. We'll go to Tom's list after this. Right? But like,
mine's on the right.
Yours is on the right. Yeah, that's what I just said.
Yeah.
But you can tell because mine's built with a good list building tool and yours is built with a stupid app. What like became funny about Iron Jaws is I just go all the drops. I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah.
Who cares? Okay. Who freaking cares?
Yep.
You can make me go whenever, man. I don't care. Like, it's irrelevant. Sure. What I'd like is 2 honor guard things. That's what I want. Right? So, and I realized I actually packed this. I built my list wrong. I need to switch 2 things around. That was my fault. I meant to put the Ardboy. Switch Zogrock and the Ardboy Big Boss. I'm sorry. I was building these and like, this needs to be, he needs to be down here and he needs to be up here. That's my fault. I just was adding things and screwed up where I clicked what. But anyways.
Our lists are interestingly similar and also not.
Sure. Like, both have the critical component here, which is the Ardboy Big Boss plus at least 1 block of Ardboys.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
The only
weird fist for the
weird
3 up, 6 up.
Yep, exactly. Ardboys is actually interesting because of the Big Boss became a sort of a bonus hero. Who would I give the second buff to? Like, in my list, there's not really much in the way of options. I don't care. Like, if I get it, I'm gonna give it to one of the to the like Brute Rager unit or the Core Grunters or something. It's fine. It's not like they'll just get some extra minimal bonus, and I don't care. But what I want is the +2 inch move. Like, that's what's relevant there.
Obviously, I'm grabbing the 2-inch move as well with my Ardboy Big Boss, and he's going to camp in the middle of the 40 Ardboys.
Yeah, like, exactly.
Him and the Weird Nod Shaman are just going to move together with surrounded by Ardboys and take up the middle of the battlefield.
Yep, that's exactly right.
I'm using where you're using just a pure hammer of brutes. I'm guessing you're using the Ragers as a prospector.
Effectively, yeah. If I need to, like, it depends on what the specific match is, right? Sometimes I'll just have them sit around and be sort of pseudo chaff or charge in on something small or go attack their prospectors. It's a versatile unit because actually I don't mind take the center, right? I'm happy to move up with my 20 Ardboys, tail the shaman and the Ardboy boss behind, like have the big boss in the unit be the 2 things within 3 inches, and then like say that's fine, come get it, and then the brutes are behind ready for the counter charge, right? And I'm perfectly happy with that as a thing. So like I don't need to be out on the flanks. You know what I'm saying? Unless I'm up against like something that I legitimately still fear, like against the chaos list or something, then the Brute Ragers will go out to the side.
Yeah, I mean, so like in my logic here was that I'm going to push into the center, obviously, with all of that. And so if they want to come into both, that's great. And then I'm going to move the Brute Ragers often up into like a backup counter charge.
Sure.
right? So that because when they come in, the Brute Ragers, that reinforced unit is going to be on first strike and ideally buffed up so that like when they do come in, even off turn, they're probably going to be hitting. Right.
Yep.
They're going to do their damage before they're lifted, ideally.
Yep. The David Campbell said the mega bosses feel like a bit of a tax to get field sergeant on the Ardboy boss. I mean, here's what I'll say. The reality for me is at 360, like they've brought the mega boss on Maw Crusher down enough now that I'm comfortable with him. He still doesn't hit like he should. Like that is real. But he can do enough damage, especially with the rend bonus.
And he has good mobility. Like he still has good mobility. Good, yes. Yeah. So like he is one of those shining pieces, right? Like in your army that can get where he needs to be. I still like Gordrak just because when calling the wall with him, I like the bonus to hit.
Sure, the +1 to hit. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's meaningful.
And like technically, I could swap out my mega. I'm at 1970. Like I could swap the mega boss for Gordrak.
But like I also missed the whetstone on him, right? Like that was one of the things that I, like
it's
that
meaningful.
That extra rend is meaningful there. But the flip side is that it's not terrible. Like I don't hate the trophies skulls on the big boss because suddenly he jumps up to like a 15 or some ridiculous command or a control score.
Yeah.
Right. Where like if he moves on with, especially if he's near our boys, no one is going to shift them off of an objective.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like in the end, I think both of these are interesting lists. Like yours is a little more like, you know, you're just trying to like a strong center with a countercharge piece, right?
Yeah. Or technically two, right?
Yeah,
because of
pig.
Gordrak. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the pig, right? Like all three, like none of those are hammers, right? But all of them are countercharge pieces.
Yeah. It's about hopefully basically mopping up the weakened units that charged your Ardboys and then got mortal wounded to death, basically.
Right. Yep.
And that's like I don't have a problem with that. You went with the primal energy. I will say I like the Iron Jaws manifestation lore, honestly.
Sure. It's not bad.
No.
But I like primal energy when I have so many pieces that I'm going to want to put wounds healing back on.
Sure.
Like there's just not enough threat in the Iron Jaws lore. It's not bad. It's just there's just not enough threat.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like the critical part is. By the way, I do really love Zogrok. Like, I think Zogrok is awesome.
Agreed.
Zogrok teasing up a unit of Ardboys is like got even more brutal, right? When he gives.
I tried to fit him in to mine.
Sure.
But I would have had to give up the 6 Ragers, and it just didn't feel like that was a good trade.
Yeah, that's fine. I get it. I mean, so I think ironically, Iron Jaws is an interesting situation. Okay. Overall, where would you rate them on the list building? I rate them as actually fun but limited.
Yeah, they're average is what I would put them in the middle. Like they're not flexible, highly flexible. Like, for example, I wanted to put the Ardboy Big Boss with the Weird Knob Shaman, and guess what? I couldn't.
Yeah, you can't.
Right,
do that.
Like you know, like I had to add a Mega Boss because that's the only way I could get into the bonus movement.
Yep,
that was my option.
That's
and originally I was like, do I go a Big Boss on foot and brutes? And it was like, nope. So then now I'm going to like pivot over to a big or a Mega Boss on Maw Crusher.
Right.
And so if I'm going to do that, I'm going to upgrade to Gordrak for the extra rent or a bonus to attack.
Yeah. Yep. Like, ultimately, the problem with Iron Jaws continues to be that you just have still a very limited number of units. Like, because what we got added when we got our expansion was a lot of stuff that just isn't very useful in the current world. Like, I understand the 6 Brute Ragers or whatever, but it's 6 models on basically no save.
No.
With 3 wounds apiece, right? Like, those things die. 3 or 6 Brute Ragers die so easy to anything that coughs on them, right?
Correct.
And all the pigs are the big pigs are like playing in a different edition. They showed up 2 editions too late to be worth anything, right?
Yeah.
So like You're always going to have the Ard boys. You need to figure out a way to get a foot hero in there because you need the plus 2-inch movement. So like you're gonna take the big boss, the Ard boy big boss in there somewhere, which is fine because you have the Ard boys and he's really good with them, and that their ability is really really strong. Pigs are generally prospectors at best, so you're not gonna like take a reinforced unit of pigs. Those don't do anything. Like everybody's performance in this army is so limited, and so, like the range they can operate in is so tight.
Yeah.
That isn't to say you can't make some choices. Like you can see the difference between our two lists. There's some different choices we made, right? Like neither of us took reinforced units of pigs. That didn't happen. Neither of us are taking tusk bosses. That's not happening, right? Like there are just certain choices you're just not going to make because they just do not make any sense, right?
Right.
So,
but these are basically variations on the same list,
right? Exactly. And again, Ard boys in a single unit, nope, never taken. Ard boys in a reinforced unit, good. Brutes in 5s, nah, forget it.
2 units of reinforced Ard boys, really good.
Yeah, like very hard to break. Fonzie says, new to the game-ish, what is meant by the term prospectors? Sure, Fonzie, happy to explain. So prospectors is a general term for a small unit that can move fast and is meant to sit on the flanks and go get the battle tactics, usually take the flanks and then take, or whatever it's called, claim the flanks or whatever the heck the thing is called, and then take their land. They are generally, you want them to be as cheap as possible. 180 points is crazy for a unit of prospectors. That is wildly expensive.
Yeah, because you're going to spend 40%, not 40%, you're going to spend a solid 20% of your army in prospectors if you do that, and that's not ideal.
Right, they go out and they get the gold, hence prospectors. But they score your battle tactics in turn 1 and turn 2 most of the time. You want them to be able to move like with a run a minimum of 10 inches effectively. So having like a 9-inch move base is generally essential, or have some kind of run trick or whatever, something like that, because they need to be able to cross the DMZ, which is not, you're 9 inches away from their territory where you set up. So hence they need to be able to cross that 9 inches and tow into the other space. So there you go. Things like those Seeker chariots that I had in the previous one are like perfect prospectors. 12-inch base move, 90 points, cheap as chips, die to a stiff breeze. Who cares? They're there to sit on the side, and then later on,
fight at all. Right.
If they exist later in the game, great. They can like countercharge, or they can charge into something. If you want to prevent a countercharge, you just throw them away. Like if I'm charging here into a core I need to kill, but there's like a hammer sitting here, and I can't afford to pin it because I know then the whole hammer will just kill me. Cool. Take the chariot, just charge it on in. Then they can't countercharge you. And like, what are they going to do? Well, they're going to flip that chariot like it's a police car in Philadelphia after the Super Bowl. But who cares?
Right.
Okay. Like, great, that thing died. It served its entire purpose. Yeah. Right. Yeah. It tied that unit up for a whole turn. Wonderful.
Yep.
Right. So yeah, they're effectively like the most essential unit you have. That actually their job is to not fight or do anything or play the game or interact.
You know what I can't wait for? New battle tactics where all that stuff like we may
goes
not
away.
We may not need prospectors anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like looking forward to that world.
But I thought this was an interesting crossover because we both had so many similarities and just made little different choices around the sides, right? Yep. Like Mega Boss versus Gordrak. Well, it's basically the same unit. We just made it slightly different in what we wanted out of them, right? I went for the 10 brutes. You went for another 20 Ard boys, right? But basically the same kind of function here. So on and so forth. Okay. All right, Tom, over to you. Ian Clark says, I wish my cruel boys had prospectors. Isn't that called... go ahead.
Dogs. It's goblin doggos. It's the new subfaction, whatever it's called, the new goblin box. That is your answer, by the way. Is the
regiment renown.
The regiment around for the goblins.
Yeah. Because it gives you a bunch of prospectors.
Yeah, like it gives you the prospectors that you need and a -1 to hit bubble, right?
Yeah.
So like more debuffs and also prospectors.
Yep. All right, talk to us, Tom, about Lumineth Realm Lords.
Yeah, so this is not a good list. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to do a Highlander list of something that I would be interested in playing. Right. And so it's a 2-drop list. It's not really highly competitive. It has essentially a center of power, which is a reinforced unit of wardens, which are terrible and are going to get lifted at like the first opportunity.
Yeah.
But they're at least going to be a road block or a road bump for the sentinels that are behind. Eltharion will be countercharging in.
Sure.
As a super punchy option. Eliana and Elthor are just amazing, and I love them.
Again, these are 2 models I love. I'm fully supportive of this. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
This is the stuff you would be using.
And that's the point, right? Like, I built this because this is what I want to like. This is what I wanted to do, a Highlander list of Lumineth that I want to play. Riverblades are your prospectors. And then the other is 10 Dawn Riders, because of course 10 Dawn Riders. And I like Lyrior because he brings a neat bubble and some buffing, and he has high enough ability. I could use him as a prospector depending on the situation.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it is I like the manifestations of Heish, mainly because I really do actually like the Rune of Petrification.
Sure. Because it's crazy long range.
It's a super long range, and you can cast it in their turn, like in their hero phase, and immediately fire it off for the damage and the strikes last, which can ruin a set of charges. So I mean, I think it has some interesting play. I also have no traits and no items in this list because everybody's unique.
Everybody's unique. Yep, exactly.
So,
do you think this runs into the same issue where it's like, oh yeah, the fun things you wanted to take were all unique, so I guess just heroic traits and artifacts don't matter anymore?
Correct. Yeah, like I could get another hero, and by the way, because I have Light of Eltharion, he serves then as my +2 movement hero. So this actually has the higher mobility bonus, which is welcome, is what I would say.
Yep.
Again, it's not highly competitive. I think that this would win games, right? But it's also, against some lists, it's just going to get lifted.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like, it's the kind of list I like a lot. And I say that about an LRL list, because your Dawn Riders, you have to use them right. If they get caught flat-footed, they'll be in trouble, right? So you got to be careful with them and use them in a smart way. I love the Light of Eltharion as a countercharge piece. I think Ella and Ella absolutely rule. I just think they're cool and like surprisingly punchy in the late game, for sure. Like turn 3 on, they're very strong as far as what they accomplish. So, yeah.
I mean, it's like I'm short in a unit. Like I really do need another prospector unit in here reliably. But there's just not, like, the points just don't allow that. And unfortunately, like, the wardens are just bad. But I don't really have a better, like, I could do a bunch of blade masters, but again, that doesn't solve the problem.
Sure.
Like, it's just 10 models at 2 wounds each, right? Like, reinforced.
Do you think this suffers from a lot of the problems we've been talking about? Like the infantry problem is definitely on display here, right?
The infantry problem, but like not the hero problem isn't, because both of these heroes are great heroes and they can also take everything.
Sure.
So like it doesn't, like, so in that sense it didn't matter. Or if I added tech lists, also wouldn't matter, right? Like all the heroes that I'm gonna want to take,
you had to get rid of your heroic trait and for the luxury of being able to choose these things, right? Of being able to actually build your army with the units you wanted, you had to get rid of your heroic trait and your artifact.
Right, which is an acceptable sacrifice. It's fine.
Sure, because it's not like they matter that much anyways.
Right, but this is something that I would want to paint up and play. Is the point, right? Like, and so it's acceptable, even though it's it's less than stellar as far as everything else goes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Very good. Okay. Very good. Thank you, everybody. If you haven't it's hard to say hit like after looking at a Lumineth list, but hey, we're not. This is a non-Lumineth hate show. This is a Lumineth like show. So hit subscribe, do that super
Vince
chat.
Just said there's a Lumineth list that he doesn't hate.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, since Lumineth got rid of like the old version of Total Eclipse and stuff, I mean, it's their problem was they were NBE packed. It's not the same army anymore. It's not the same experience.
Nope. and you get to actually live in this build. You get to live in the Venari buffs.
Yeah,
Right? Like it is just all the everything that you want to be for auto wounding.
absolutely.
Or auto wounding and mortal wounding. Yeah.
Okay. Your last list, Tom. Fire Slayers. That's right. A Fire Slayers list with all the regiments.
When I posted this, what did you think? Were you like, what is this nonsense?
No, I thought that's exactly what I would expect Tom to take. Sure. But unpack this for me, Tom. Go ahead. Take us through this madness.
So one of the first things, so like this is playing on one hand the insanity, which is so this list was my attempt to try MSU.
Yeah.
Because in general MSU is bad in the current
It's bad,
meta.
yes. Like, I look at those 5 Hearthguard Berserker units and I'm like, those could have just been 2 10 Hearthguard Berserker units instead of 4 or 5.
But here's the deal. Like, one of the interesting things about the way this is when you MSU is that it forces people to divide attacks when they're facing 9 units.
Sure.
And when everybody's sitting on 4 up wards, 4 up and 5 up wards, suddenly like it's a real big gamble splitting attacks.
Sure.
Right. And so this list is designed to make people make bad decisions.
Sure.
Okay. So one of the things that happens is the Grimwrath Berserker.
Like you just have too many individual units that if they try to focus up and they'll lift the units, but it's like that's just too many units to kill.
Right, exactly. And so then or they're going to try to split attacks, and when they do, they're not going to kill units, and these units are still all
something will go wrong and they'll fail to they'll roll bad or whatever,
right. And then most of the all the heroes, if you don't lift the heroes, they're at full efficiency when they come into you.
Yeah, sure.
Right. And so one of the things so the Grimwrath Berserkers, they're the tech that is in every regiment. So you'll notice there's 5 regiments and there are 5 Grimwraths.
5 regiments, 5 Grimwrath Berserkers.
And so one of the interesting things about the Grimwrath is that their ability gives them, when they're everything, like, let me say it this way. Everything here is meant to be deployed together. So when you see a regiment, those things are going to go down as a fighting unit. Okay.
Yeah, I understand. You're dropping them all as little centers of power. These are all effectively little not power pairs, but power trips.
Correct.
Terrible triplets.
Every Grimwrath is +1 to hit and +1 to ward when he's within 6 inches of a Fire Slayer hero. Okay. Yep. And so he's on like 2s and 3s, 2s and 2s on a charge. Ren 2, 2s and 2s, Ren 2, damage 2.
Sure.
All of them are when they charge based on the sub faction. And then they're going to be at +1 ward. Now, each one of those Grimwrath Berserker units give all units and themselves a 5-up ward if there's a hero nearby. Okay. So the Grimwraths are all ward 4. And all of the fathers are ward 4. Okay, because of their own rule. And the Berserkers are ward 5. Okay. So all of them are sharing all of those buffs, right?
Yep.
And then
this list really likes a high number of objective count scenario.
Right. Because like each of these like little packs are doing work. The rune, the one rune that's there, the fiery or the ash cloud, is like no line of sight to any infantry.
Sure.
So like you're gonna have basically the father, the general's regiment as your like center, right? Like wherever you need to go strong, that's where that one goes into, and you'll often support it with one. The priest one deploys in the backfield and holds the a back objective and your forge. Your priest is the double praying priest with a +1/+2 actually to cast from the forge and from his trait.
Okay.
And so he can drop like the magma thing to do shooting. So he's going to pop up invocations to do a bunch of like range stuff to support your other centers of power. And so it is a very diffuse center of power. And then there's also a father on Magmadroth.
Okay.
So it's not just only foot heroes. There is a father on Magmadroth. And that's meant to be your like mobility countercharge, right? Like he's the one that's going to position to be where he needs to go into a fight. and he can give everybody within his bubble +1 attacks. And so
what's the general, what do you double up on here? Because obviously with 5 regiments you're gonna have honor guard most of the time, double honor guard.
Right.
What's your second, like what's your 2 honor guards you're taking?
Yeah, so most of the time, because there's no
bodyguard and a +2 move on one of the Grimwraths.
Yeah, okay. That's exactly right. Yeah, like the bodyguard on the mage generals, like that 10-pack, right?
Yeah,
so that when they come into that 10-pack, everybody's fighting and they are debuffing.
Why aren't you fighting?
Yep. The Rune Sun is interesting because if he charges, all Fire Slayer units within 18 inches get +1 to charge, like all infantry units. So like the actual Sun is actually, it has a real buff on him if and when he goes in. And so if I'm creating a strong center, oftentimes it would be with the Father unit, the Father foot unit, and the Sun foot unit. It was my attempt to try to explore MSU. It's insanity.
I love it. I mean, it's very creative. And I do think actually it's sort of the like we have entered a world of affinity, right? We've entered the bad Mirrodin world of affinity, circa 2004 or 5 or whatever.
Yeah.
4. And this feels like a good anti-affinity list, right? Like it is sort of a good answer to what's happening right now, because your traditional like chaos list that just has like 3 big hammers, even with double pilots, is going to be really hard pressed to actually like kill its way through this thing, right?
Right, because it's inevitably going to have to divide attacks,
right?
And when you do that, you suddenly are gambling. You're playing a gambling game that you're probably not going to win,
right?
And so the other irony is that like all of those Grimwraths have double pylon, every single one, right? Like, and if they get a charge off, they're 2s and 2s, -2/2, 5 attacks with double pylon.
Yeah, no, it's good damage that comes out of them.
And then
especially for 100 points, like let's be real.
Yep. And then I also, because the Rune Father has like the augmented rune ability, right, from like his prayers and all that, like there's actually some really interesting play there with like there's the hero phase pylon prayer, for another fighter. So like there's going to be a fighter that's going to be able to be targeted with that.
Gotcha.
Right. So there's, again, as Noop says, there's actually a lot going on in this list, and it's encouraging bad decisions. Like most lists won't know how to actually differentiate.
Yeah, it's encouraging your opponent to make bad decisions.
Right, exactly, because they don't know how to fight it, and that's part of the point.
Yeah.
Right. Because there are no good decisions to be made here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as the reduced save rampage on the Father Droth actually, it can push the Grimwraths to -4 rend.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I mean, like, I've never thought, like, this is a really fascinating construction in Fire Slayers. Like, this has no interest to me to play this.
Sure.
Right? Like, because I don't like Fire Slayers.
Yep.
But I love conceptually what you're doing with this list. Like, I wish more armies had sort of this kind of tech. This actually feels like one of the most successful list sort of experiments here. It's not suffering from any of the problems we've talked about. It's playing counter to all of that, right? It's
right. It's a perpendicular design to how.
Yeah. It's sort of Sun Tzuing. It's turning the opponent's strength into a weakness, right? Like so. Yeah. I enjoy that. I think that's pretty sweet, Tom. This is a great list. This is like a legitimately great list. Yes, Brawny Mate says it's a fairly standard checkerboard approach. I don't know that each unit has enough survivability against real hammers, happily splitting attacks. Also, it hands out battle tactics to your opponent. I mean, I don't know, Brawny. My general feeling is that like most good lists just pretty easily go 5 for 5 without trying. Like the successful like the successful list. So yes, you've got plenty of like easy charge and kill stuff, but I don't know. I think it'd more or less be the same. I really like the list. I do think I agree with you. I think it is a checkerboard strat, but I like a checkerboard strat, and I don't think there's a lot. I think that's actually I think the checkerboard strat's actually a very good counterplay to the current set of the things. I don't know how well it'd work. I mean, I guess I agree. Kuwal says with good rune usage, you'll tank anything with this, but it'll be very difficult in positioning. Yeah, that's probably true. Like you'd have to really pilot this well. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, agreed.
Because if you let them get to a point where they can accidentally get into too much stuff or the wrong things or whatever, then then they will start splitting they'll start splitting favorably, right?
Right.
And you want to avoid that. So,
yep.
WizBiz said Fire Slayers accidentally Johnnying. I mean, I think Fire Slayers are basically they've always kind of lived on the Johnny Spike borderline, frankly.
Yeah.
With the runes and stuff. So
yeah,
no, this is good.
I like this. To me, this is the only way that you make Fire Slayers work right now is to go weird and or go all Magma Dross. But even then, that's its own problem, right? Like
Sure.
that doesn't deal with some of the actual problems that this army is running into.
Yeah, no, it's interesting.
Brano, I disagree that this will struggle to get out of Alpha Pintech because of the amount of damage that this can leverage. Like each of these packs is itself a hammer. Like, because when you if they come in, that's great. They're going to remove one of these 5, and then at least 3 of them can collapse on the thing that is a pinning, augmented by runes, and that's the problem, for them. So, anyways,
yeah, it's interesting. It's certainly interesting. Okay, yes, it's counterculture. That's right. UT Rage. That's right. All the revolution begins now. It begins with the Fire Slayers. Yeah, the revolution will be televised and it will be full of short little stunty dwarves with orange hair. Okay. So, yeah, overall, let's kind of summarize here at the end, Tom. Let's talk about some just kind of final thoughts. There are other armies I didn't build. Like, I didn't build a Sons of Bahamut list. I could have, but I felt like it was, like, really, really, really on autopilot. But that's not that surprising. Sure. It's always been an autopilot army. And that's fine. Like, it's what it should be. I don't think that's actually a complaint or anything. Okay. Like, there you go. They can have the Fire Festival. Nice, cool. I love it. Sorry, Pat Noon. Sorry. Yes, I love it. So like that's there. I could have done some of the S2D lists I didn't put up. To me, the S2D lists right now are problematic because of the efficiency problem. We talked about it a little bit at the beginning. My issue with it is, hey, thank you for the super chat, Average Joe. Grandfather Nurgle's boils weep with sorrow, for no list was made in his name. Such neglect festers like an untreated wound. I love it, Average Joe. Sorry, Tom could have made a Nurgle list. I can't make a Nurgle list. It's not my army, my man. So, my problem with S2D is that like there's such an obvious efficiency gap. Like you can make little choices, but like, and my actual preferred build doesn't have Bellicor in it. Like, here's your list: 6 Varanguards, 6 Chosen, 6 Therodons, a Gaunt Summoner, and then whatever, some other small hero.
Mm-hmm. I like Abraxia a lot, but Bellicor exists, and so like sure. I don't see a world where I ever swap them out, right? It's funny. I have the things right for the Slaves to Darkness list, and I just don't want to run it.
Yeah, I think that there's still an efficiency problem. That being said, I know there have been some more people since the points drops playing around with the barbarian lists and having some success.
Yep.
I need to look into those. I haven't really tried to build with those yet. I do think those are the much more interesting lists.
I have, to be very clear. Like I've spent quite a bit of time tinkering with them. I'm not sure in the new world that the Army of Renown is worth running now over just doing a barbarian heavy Slaves to Darkness list.
Gotcha.
Because of the way the vows work and what you're getting out of them, like most of the time you're going to get more gas out of the marks.
Yeah, sure.
And out of you can do a lot of the same things with just running the base stuff. I've actually that's another thing. I picked up all of I have a 2K barbarian army that I'm going to be like building and painting. Right. I need to get
Nice.
my bases. I need to put my bases. But like I picked up like the whole suite. Right. Because I do like the barbarian army and I want to play around with it. But I don't think that the real gas, like you're gambling too much by trying to do the regiment or the army of renown rather than doing just the pure raw efficiency of praising Slanesh,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
Like
Yeah.
it's just like that's the right answer.
Praise our Lord God Slanesh. I want a 3d6 charge today. Woo! That's
Right,
absolutely right. Yeah.
and so um I think if they took another bite at that army of renown apple, that there might be something there.
Sure.
because because that is still in the book, right? The slaves book itself, like the army of renown.
As far as I know, yeah. I'd have to go look at it. Honestly, it's been too long since I've read that
Because
book.
it might not be actually is what I think. Like people can still play it, but they're having to play the old version, not like that was in the code, like the because it was in one of the other books, I believe.
Don't ask me. I
My
don't
Slave to Darkness book is in the mail right now.
know. Okay.
But I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Anyways, all of that to say, I like the barbarians and I like what they're doing.
Yeah. At the same time, I agree with Branu that the Dark Oath wounds problem is real. The thing we were talking about earlier, right? It's infantry on a relatively low save, maxing at 20, and yeah, the Savagers being unreinforceable. Like the new rule that those units can't be reinforced. Like I understand why it's there. It's like it's one of those universal rules. Like, yep, they put it in place. I get why it's there because it's really silly and annoying to have reinforced units of these special Warcry things. But at the same time,
Yeah.
it's just like then don't make that the unit that obviously needs to be reinforced in the reinforcement edition that then can't. Right?
Yeah.
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 To me the actual art there's other armies we didn't talk about, but again I would say there's probably what 6 to 8 that are in the territory of like actually variable, interesting list building area.
Yeah.
Does that sound about right to you?
Yeah.
I think probably, we talked about Skaven, probably cities falls in here into that area. Because like it is, they do have a lot of variability in the list building. They've got some efficiency challenges and quality, but like list building, take that out of it to some degree. And, it's like there is actually a lot of interesting stuff going on there. I think if they can get the efficiency problem fixed with S2D, which I assume is probably something that's going to be worked on, then I think S2D will be in the realm of actual interesting list building.
I mean, Stormcast I think fits into that as well.
I agree. Stormcast, Soulblight. I think so. Like we didn't touch on Soulblight at all, but I think Soulblight fits in there very much. So they actually have quite a lot of variability in their lists. So I think that's definitely one of them. And maybe End. I don't know. Like that might be the.
Do you think that Sylvaneth or not Sylvaneth? Do you think that Seraphon?
They're the one that's on the fence for me. Maybe is it like they're in the where I said 6 to 8, they would be in that too, right?
Yeah, the last couple. Yeah. Armies that are like KO.
Sure. I mean, a lot of the things we've talked about. Branu says, yeah, exactly, Branu. I mentioned Soulblight. I agree. Like it's a lot of variability, just none of it's especially good. I agree with all of that. But like it is a very fun list building experience. I think there's some things that are working against it, but I think it's got potential. I haven't played with Sylvaneth or against Sylvaneth enough to know, but I have seen a good number of decent different lists. So you're right. They're probably in there. I think that like Tzeentch, especially since the changes is pretty locked in as to what you're doing. I think Nurgle just doesn't have enough anything going on to be interesting in its list building phase. We mentioned Suns. That's boring, right? We talked about LRL and like the challenges of that. KO definitely locked out. I think KO. yeah, I mean, I think Nighthaunt is basically not an interesting list building experience. So much of it is just even after all the change, like with all the changes now, it's fallen to just like there's one specific sort of thing you're gonna do. I don't know what to think about FEC post the changes. I think that's one I haven't gotten to really see. I think Ogres. It's a great question. Is Ogres better since the Battle Scroll? You know, I think with I don't think it's an interesting. I have played against Ogres since the Battle Scroll. I don't think it's an interesting list building experience. I think it's you take and fill it up with as many cheap monster trucks as you can, basically. I don't think it's always bench depth, but I think bench depth can have a big impact. WizBiz, I think it has a huge impact. The problem is they tended to treat all the army like it's weird. So like your regiment and hero and sub-hero options and everything in Skaven, where you have just like a million units, right, is actually very free and open because you have so many heroes that can just like take anything and bonus heroes and whatever and are not special characters and are cheap, right? And yet there are smaller armies with very few choices, and yet they're on rails, right? So, you know, like again, yeah, that's why I said I agree, Dad Bod. Like S2D being a good example of where it's not like they have a huge bench and yet it's not there, right? It's not an interesting list building experience. You know what you're doing. You know, it's just like here are your 4 obvious choices. Like, you know, there you go. It's like take one of these cookie cutter lists. It's really 4 is being generous, honestly. And by that I mean they're almost all the same. You're just picking which hero you want leading the whole thing. So.
Yep.
But we'll see. I mean, we're quickly cruising toward the spring battle scroll. My guess is they're going to continue to try to shake some things up. So we'll see what happens. I hope we fix some of these problems. I think some of this is built in until we get to the next GHB in the summer, and we change the battle tactics around.
I agree.
So,
like, I just don't think that there's a way around it.
Yeah. I don't think Gotrek is a very viable option in any build, would be my answer. But
yeah.
Yep. So, all right. Well, there you go. Well, hey, thank you to everybody who chatted and commented, who liked. If you haven't hit like or subscribe, make sure you do that before you head out. It's really appreciated. Don't forget to, if you want to support the show, there's lots of ways you can do so. Down below, there's links for all your hobby supplies, affiliate links. There's a new link down there. I should have mentioned it in news, but I'll mention it here. Don't know exactly, but it's like generally the end of March, probably something like that. So 7. There's a new link with Michigan Toy Soldier. So great hobby shop. I have an affiliate link with them now, so you can save some money picking up your hobby supplies. Really helps out the show. So check out that link down below. It's just you got a simple coupon code. You use it at checkout. Bing bang, save yourself some money. Easy. Check it out down there. And of course, there's Uncle Adam and I's games. And you know, stay tuned. You may hear some additional stuff coming from Uncle Adam and I pretty soon. So we'll see. We'll see. For those of you who stuck around to the end, you get the little tease that Uncle Adam and I we're in the works on something extra for all of you. So, you know, stay tuned. Hope everybody enjoyed the topic. Hope everybody had fun. Tom, thank you so much as always, brother. Good time.
Of course.
For all of you out there, thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. And as always, we'll see you next Wednesday.